So, good morning, Girl Guiding Midlands. I'm Lou, as you can see on the screen, and my rank is leading hand. So, that's what the LH there in front of my name actually stands for. So, in my 11 years in the Navy, I've done 2 APT South deployments, which stands for Atlantic Patrol Tasking. They were both over 6 months long. I've also done a 4 month deployment to the Falklands where I was based on land and not on a ship because as the Navy, we are mainly all about the ships. So the Falklands is a British island, so we keep the British military there to keep it safe and protected. So during my time on ships, which I've been on 4 in total in my career, I've visited some amazing places. I can say without the Navy, I would have never thought of visiting or ever thought I'd be able to afford to go to some of them. I've been through the Panama Canal, which is narrow waters into Central America. I've visited Angola, Mauritania, Cape Verde, Antwerp, Norway, and Chile. But I'm going to talk to you about some of my favourites. So, next slide, please. So, my first stop on my first deployment was Lisbon. We had 2 days there, and it started as they all do with a cocktail party. So I'm a steward, which is a part of the catering services branch. And whenever we come alongside in a port, we usually have a cocktail party or a dinner party. So one of my jobs is to serve them, where we have they're always fun and we get to meet important people from different countries. So we have guests come on board, and during the time on the ship, they have a tour and chat to the officers on board. It's in order for us to build relationships within that country and for allies in the future. So moving on to the Falklands, it's very cold and there isn't a lot to do, but it's such an experience to go there in itself. The Falklands is the whole reason we do an APT South deployment, is to keep them waters safe and do trials and patrols with other ships that are actually based there. We stay alongside for around a week to 10 days, and then we leave and come back for the same amount of time and do trials and patrols with them other ships in between. So the photograph of the penguin is the only penguin I saw in the Falklands while I was there on ship. Other people went on other days and saw loads because they go around in massive groups, but I only saw one. The other picture on there with the Falklands is of me and the girls in my mess, which is our living area. We're anchored off just outside of South Georgia, having what we called a Blue Nose barbecue, as it was very cold. But we wanted to go outside and do something as a ship's company. So the ship put on a barbecue on the upper deck and we all had dinner out there, which was really nice and different. Next slide, please. South Africa is one of the most amazing places I've ever been to. So 2 of the main reasons we visit South Africa is to restock the ship and give the ship's company, as well as the ship, a well-deserved respite period. So in between our 2 visits to the Falklands, we have a 2-week stand-down period, which is halfway through a deployment. Half of the people on the ship have a week off and the other half have the other week off. This is because the ship has to have people on it at all time. There is never a day where the ship doesn't have at least 20 people on it. We call these duty personnel. So during my week off, a couple of the girls and I got a villa for a week and had a lazy week going around doing day trips to Table Mountain, shopping and pretty much just laying on the beach and relaxing. But the second week I was working, which our working hours are 8 in the morning until 4 in the evening. But on a weekend, we would work Saturday or Sunday routines. And a Saturday is a half day, so we finish at 12. And a Sunday, we start work at 9 and finish at 10. So a friend and I hired a car for the week. And when we wasn't working, we'd get straight in the car and go out and do some more traveling. Barbados was absolutely beautiful. We actually got 4 days lazy Sunday routine while we stopped here, which meant we got 4 days off unless we needed to do a duty, so be on the ship for that 24-hour period. We had the opportunity again to get a hotel, but we have to check in with somebody on the ship to let them know that we're safe and where we are every day. We have a duty of care to all the people on board ship. And when we got alongside, we didn't have any guests, so it was more of a relaxing stop for us. So the first night there, Anne Marie, one of the girls I was on the ship with and I lived with, I'm still close with her now. So she's still one of my best friends, and we met 8 years ago on ship. And we left that ship actually 6 years ago, and we're still really close. But the first night in, she got talking to the captain of the ship. So he is in charge of the ship and all of the people on it. He was asking what we were up to that night, and she felt sorry for him because he didn't have any plans and he hadn't been invited anywhere. So she invited him along with us. So on the screen, you can see that there is 5 of us girls and the captain of our ship. We all went out for a meal and then went out afterwards. So it's always fun. You never know who's going to be coming out with you on the night and who you're going to be going exploring with on that ship. But usually, as a ship's company, you end up meeting up in the same place. So there ends up being around 200 of you, all in the same area, which is always fun. But also, again, usually when we're away somewhere nice, we plan a day out with our departments. So all different areas of the ship have different departments. So as part of the catering department, I'm part of the logistics branch. The catering branch. I'm part of the logistics department. We planned a boat trip for the day, which I know is a bit odd as we're living on a ship. But it was brilliant. We went swimming, had a barbecue, and got to spend the day together. It's always great to bond with people you don't see as much on board, so you don't work with them directly. So unless you live with them, you don't see them very often. So it's always good to do things like that. Next slide, please. New York was definitely a favourite. My family flew out to New York and met the ship. It was amazing. They were there waving the ship in, even though it was absolutely pouring down with rain. I was the captain's steward at the time, so that meant I worked with him directly. He invited my family on the ship out of the rain, and they had a cup of tea in his cabin. It was my mum, my dad, my granddad, and my brother and sister, but they all absolutely loved it. My brother and sister are also in the Navy, and they couldn't believe it because they've never had that experience, even with them being in the Navy longer than me. And so that's what I love so much about my job and being a steward, because I get that relationship with the captain and other officers that some people don't actually get. So we had a cocktail party on the first night in, and in order to greet people from there, but this stop was mainly a rest stop for the ship's company that was there. My family were invited. It was an amazing experience because getting to share and show them the way I live and my life whilst on deployment is just a completely different experience. There's a photo of my sister, brother, and me in New York, and with New York as the background. I put 4 days leave while in New York so I could spend the time with my family. And the Americans absolutely love the military. So our first night there, a group of us went out in our uniform, and we was getting stopped constantly for people to take photos with us. And that big photo on the screen, I didn't get that off Google. That's a photo I actually took myself of the Empire State Building. So the views and just getting to do some tourist things was absolutely brilliant. Next slide, please. on a deployment, it's not just about where you go and the experiences in different countries. Even though they are amazing, the experiences at sea and what you get the chance to have, and when you get the chance to have some downtime, is an experience in itself. If it's not too rough at sea, we do circuit training 3 times a day. So we get to keep fit, and it gets people outside on the upper deck to get a bit of fresh air. The photos on here show some of the things we actually do at sea. So that's when the weather is nice, mainly, because when it's cold and a bit rough, nobody really wants to go outside. So we usually do these when we're not too busy on a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon, and we follow them with a barbecue on the upper deck. So it's always when it's warm. And as you can see, there's different things you get to do. A tug of war. The photo with us girls dressed up there is because we were doing mess games, and you have competitions, and whoever wins, I mean, you don't really win anything, but it's all about having fun and getting outside and doing things. The top right photograph is some of the people. The top left photograph is some of the people from the ship swimming in the sea. So when we sail across the equator, the ship stops and we get the opportunity to actually. If I chose another career, I would have never had that opportunity. I mean, it's scary, but it's amazing at the same time. I have spoken a lot about the places I've been and what I've done, because after deployment, yes, I did do a lot of work in between, but the main thing I remember is the places I went to and the people that I got to experience this with. So thank you for listening to me, and I will pass you over to Sim. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou. Some great places she's been there. My name is Sim Lowe. I'm a Lieutenant Commander in the Navy. That's what those letters stand for in front. I'm part of the same team as Lou, going out to talk to young people like yourselves. And thank you for having us, Midlands Girl Guiding. Really appreciate it, and hope you have a wonderful, wonderful thinking day. I too have been to the Falklands like Lou, but one of the places I got to go when I was there was the Antarctic, and it is easily my favourite place in the world. My job as an officer on board the ship is to drive the ship for the captain to get it there, navigate it safely through some of the dangers, and make sure that we're all okay. We were delivering equipment for the British Antarctic Survey team down in the Antarctic, which is one of the main groups that works on climate change science. So trying to find solutions to the problems we have with climate change. That was a really important role that we were playing. I was very fortunate to travel there with a group of people, maybe 50 on our ship, not a very big ship, but I got to see some amazing places. I got to be in the middle of a blizzard, which in this country, when we get a bit of snow, which we had recently, might be 2 or 3 inches, maybe 6 overnight. We had 2 feet, so 24 inches of snow come in over 4 hours when we were there. So the picture in the top right there is me and some of my teammates with snow shovels on the upper deck, trying to get as much snow off the ship as possible, because we were worried it might capsize because of the weight of the snow. I got to meet some incredible people, but also some incredible animals. If you've seen David Attenborough's 7 Worlds, 1 Planet, which I know some of you will because they'll have shown it in school, it's an amazing show. It's on iPlayer. Definitely watch it if you haven't. The first episode is in the Antarctic. And so the beach where David Attenborough is walking through the elephant seals and through the penguins and other bits, I've been to. And it's a huge thing for me because I'm a very big fan of his. He's a big hero of mine. So I've got to do that. It's not the safest thing in the world to walk near an elephant seal, but it was an amazing experience. And they are just incredible creatures and things you wouldn't see anywhere else in the world. And then I love this photo in the top left-hand corner, and my team wind me up about it. But that's me in a place called King Edward Point inside the Antarctic Circle, pulling a silly pose at the time. But my thing is, if you look at the date on it, in 2006, that's 2 years before Usain Bolt ever did that at the Olympics. So I argue that that's mine. I invented it. And if anybody ever tells you that's the Usain Bolt move, it's not. Lieutenant Commander Sim Low, Royal Navy, invented it first. And then finally, down in the bottom right-hand corner, you've got my penguin friend. All of his friends are behind me, having run off into the sea because they were worried and scared. But this little fella, who's a Gentoo penguin on the Falkland Islands, was very, very excited by my camera flash. So every time I took a picture, he walked a little closer, and he got probably to within 2 feet of me. And then I tried to stroke him, which wasn't smart, and he ran away. But it was an amazing thing to see something in the wild so intrigued by me. And again, the kind of place, the Antarctic, it costs £14,000 to go for a 2-week cruise down there as a civilian. I got paid to go there, and that's incredible. I'd volunteered to go back there as well. It was an amazing place, an amazing experience that I couldn't have dreamed of getting anywhere else. The other fun place that I'd like to talk about that I got to go to was Brazil. Brazil is an incredible country, a huge country, and it's known for its festivals and its carnivals and amazing footballers and things like that. And we went to stay in a place which isn't very well known called Rio Grande do Sul to fit some stuff, get some engineering stuff fitted on our ship to make sure that it would carry on working okay. And while we were there, the first thing we did was we went to visit one of their memorials for their sailors and soldiers and airmen who had died in previous wars. Now, I know that you ladies will have been part of Remembrance Sunday. Well, every country has their version of that. And so whenever we go somewhere, we go and lay a wreath to honour the memory of their serving personnel. And they do the same to us. There'll be a Brazilian ship, I think, coming to London in September this year. And they'll do the same. They'll go to the cenotaph because we respect their efforts and their loss as well. And it helps to build those bonds and friendships that Lou spoke about. And it was an incredible experience and a great honour to be part of that. Now, one of the big things about Rio Grande do Sul is a very, very poor area. It's a third world, Brazil is a third world country technically, but it is the very, very poorest part of Brazil. So when we were there, one of the big things that we were absolutely desperate to do was to do some charity work to help out. It wasn't just about going and exploring and having fun. So we found out a local children's charity and arranged to play a football match. So the picture in the bottom left-hand corner you can see is the ship's company playing a football match. And then some of the children from the charity playing in the picture on the right with some of our guys. And we raised some money and did a barbecue and got some food in for the young people there because we were guests there and we wanted to give something back for their hospitality and their help. Those of you who know anything about football will know that Brazilians are very good at football. And we thought we were playing a Sunday league side. We were playing a youth team from a professional side, and they beat us 17-1. Not my proudest day on a football field, but an amazing experience nonetheless. And then finally on this, in the top left-hand corner, I visited the region capital called Porto Alegre, which is a beautiful city, with some friends when I had some downtime, a little bit like Lou mentioned. And when I was there, there was an enormous football match, the biggest football match in South America, called the final of the Copa de Libertadores. I think the Champions League final in Europe, just to give you a guide of it. And the night before it, I met a lady in my hotel who worked for one of the sponsors. My friend jokingly told her that I'd love to go to the game because I'm a mad football fan. And next thing I know, she gave me 2 tickets for free. So I got to go and watch the biggest football match in South America live in person, which for a lot of football fans, a South American football match is a bucket list tick off. So a huge thing. And again, never have had that opportunity if I hadn't been there with the Navy. It was a part of the world I would never have dreamed of going to, or I don't even think there's very much tourism there. So real opportunity, and just really fortunate to get that opportunity, and took it with both hands. And what was even better is the home side won. So there was an enormous party in the city afterwards, which was brilliant. Excuse me. So the experiences at sea are the key ones in the Navy. Though we get to go to some wonderful places and do some amazing things and explore these incredible countries. But actually, life at sea is one of my favourite things. You can see there's a variety of pictures here from ships in, driving past icebergs in the Antarctic, going through rough seas in the top right hand corner. I'm very lucky I don't get seasick. I won't ask Lou about if she gets seasick. It's a different story. But I absolutely love that. Love being away, and I got to travel through those rough seas to get to beautiful places like Grytviken, which is the middle photo, again in the Antarctic. Incredible experience. I've also driven, that's a small ship. You can see in the bottom right hand corner, there's about 50 people on board. If you look at the bottom left, I've driven a ship that's 18,500 tons, which, to give you, that's about 18,500 cars piled on top of each other. And if you've ever seen a Chinook helicopter with the two blades on top, or the two rotors, that's one there. You can fit another one back here, and then another one here, and that's only a third of the ship. So huge ship, and that had over 1,000 people on it at some points. So huge responsibility for me driving that ship, making sure everyone was safe. Because if you make a mistake in those circumstances at sea, everybody's swimming home, and then you're not a very popular person. But an incredible time, a really joyful, enjoyable thing that I got to do and experience traveling all over the world with it. I've been incredibly fortunate in my time with the Navy. And of course, the traveling is enjoyable. The people you travel with are great. The one on the left-hand side of this slide is me looking at a sunset that it looks like the sky's on fire. And I absolutely love that picture because I'm grinning from ear to ear. I'm wandering along a place called Bertha's Beach in the South Atlantic. And it's like my third day there. I'm 8,000 miles away from home, and I am so happy to be in this incredible place that I couldn't have dreamed of going to a few years before, just wandering around and experiencing this awesome thing. And then on the right, those are people that I joined up with. So over 20 years ago, I joined with Andy and Lindsay. Andy is still in the Navy and doing very well for himself. He's a captain. He's much better than me. And Lindsay has now left, but she's become a teacher. But this is 14 years ago, this picture was taken, and we still talk. Andy and I talk weekly. Lindsay and I probably every month or so have a bit of a joke on Facebook and things, but we were a family. We got to know each other so well in the time we spent together that those bonds stayed together. And that's one of the things with the Navy. It's all well and good traveling all over the world and doing lots of things, but it's the people you travel with that make it the most exciting thing and the most enjoyable part of the job. I'm going to talk very briefly here about the Royal Navy core values, because I think they tie quite closely to the core values of Girl Guides. It's really important for Navy personnel to have these characteristics in their personality. We expect it of everybody, from the most senior admiral all the way through to the most junior trainee going through their first few courses down in Cornwall. So commitment, courage, discipline, respect, integrity, and loyalty, they are vital. And I expect them from my team expect them from me, and I expect them from everybody else that I work with. But the key thing I note from these, and I always bring this up, is that you won't get a GCSE or an A level in any of these. These are parts of your personality. And that's what's key for us in the Navy, is that yes, academics are helpful and useful, particularly in things like engineering and medicine and jobs like that. But actually, it's the personality and the characteristics of the person that are vital, because you will succeed if you have these. We will train you to have these, to build on these skills and make a success of your career. So I expect these of my people all the time. And if I was going to go into a job interview long term, when you're old enough to go out to the workforce, I personally talk about these as skills I have, important things, part of my personality, before I talk about my academics, before I talk about my drama GCSE. I'm a beautiful singer and a wonderful actor, but that's not that impressive to an employer. But a committed person, a courageous person, a disciplined, respectful, loyal, trustworthy, integrity means honesty, trustworthy person, hugely, hugely vital. So these are skills that even though you won't get a certificate for them, you should be proud to have. And I know you have them, but I would start selling yourself on them. And of course, being military, we like to shorten things. So C2 drill, because there's 2 C's, drill. We like acronyms. And the final one from me is a picture of just where your Navy is in the world. And it is your Navy. Your Navy, we represent the UK. This is your Royal Navy, and we are all over the world. So around the UK, you can see the bases on the left-hand side. And the gold ones are air squadrons, so our new jets are there at the moment, and the blue ones are Navy, and the green ones are Royal Marines, but the Royal Marines are part of the Royal Navy. They're our landing force. You can see there are 2 ships in the Caribbean. They're there to do counter narcotics, so stopping drug running. Drugs come from South America, travel up through the Caribbean on fast boats, meet ships off the coast of the USA, and travel over to Europe, and then drugs are sold all over Europe. We don't get them all. There's still problems, but we take a lot off the market, hundreds of millions of pounds every year, which is really, really beneficial for everybody. It makes it a safer place. They're also there for humanitarian aid, which is the other big job we do. And that's because every year in the Caribbean, due to the weather systems in the world, there is a hurricane or a storm, and they're there to deliver disaster relief. So when I say humanitarian aid, I mean food, water, medical supplies, clothing, shelter, to people whose houses may have been blown down, who may have been injured by the storms. And very often we're the first ones there to help. And in fact, RFA Argus has just been in to help with the latest storm, which I think was called Storm Irma, delivering that support. So we're there to help. And that's one of the key things. We carry weapons and we can go to war. But the truth is, we're actually there to make the world a better place and make it safer. And we try and avoid those, the violent side of it far more, because it's just, I don't want it. I don't want to put my family at risk, and no one else who joins up does either. So we try and avoid that and try and make it a better place for people to live in. Down south, you can see HMS Forth is one of our Antarctic, our Falkland Island patrol vessel, and also HMS Protector, which was here when this picture was done originally, but she's our Antarctic survey vessel. She's now travelling back down south. She was getting some engineering work done in Barrow. We've got ships in the Mediterranean, and they're helping with the migrant crisis. So you may have seen on the news, there are these poor people, desperate people trying to travel from the north coast of Africa across to Europe on boats designed for 50, and they've got 300 people squeezed onto them. We're pulling them out of the water. We're taking them to safety because they're in a terrible situation. It's our job to help. We've got ships in the Gulf, the Arabian Gulf. They're removing mines from the area which were left from previous wars, so explosive devices that damage ships. And they're still clearing those waterways. They're there as well, helping with counter piracy. Piracy is a huge problem around the world. 95% of world trade goes by sea. So all those nice things you've got, I suspect you're watching this on an iPhone or a tablet or something like that. Most of the bits, if not the whole thing, come from China over here. To get here, they get on a big ship and travel round this way, up past the Horn of Africa, up through the Red Sea, through the Mediterranean, and out through the Straits of Gibraltar around to the UK. Right here is a big piracy hotspot, a place called Somalia. And also here, there's a civil war in Yemen. So there are people firing on the ships traveling up through the Red Sea. So our ships are there to help civilian vessels travel safely through those areas so that you get your nice food, electronics, clothes that come from all over the world. If we don't keep those areas safe, those things won't come. And that's a big problem. And finally, we've got ships. We've got a ship out here at the moment, although it's not on here, carrying out diplomatic work. So going and talking to other countries and building friendships, making sure that we look after each other and we try and find solutions together to problems like piracy, like drug dealing, like humanitarian aid. And that's the key for us, is working together to make the world a safer place is vital for all of us. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your time today, and hope you have a really enjoyable rest of your thinking day. Thank you.